Hello everyone, it is Libby from Libby's Chicken Ranch. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make bread. This is Walter Sands white bread. I got it off the King Arthur website. I will link that in the description below. And what I do is it has the volume and weight, and I usually weigh everything. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but I have this food scale here. Ahead of time, I just weigh I use honey for the sweetener. You can use regular sugar also. I use honey and then just warm water. And then it's 2.5 teaspoons of yeast. And then I just sprinkle that in there. And then I let it proof. So I let it sit here for about 10 minutes. And while that's proofing, basically what proofing is, for those of you who've never made bread or anything before, that's just to make sure that your yeast is active and healthy and happy. So if you come back 10 minutes later and it still looks like this, your yeast is no good and you have to throw it out and try different yeast. So I will come back and show you the rest of the ingredients. Okay, so now as you can see, this is nice and bubbly. Looks really good. So now we're going to add the rest of the ingredients, which includes salt. I use pink Himalayan, but you can use whatever you have. Butter, softened. Got a little over soft, but that's all right. Powdered milk and flour. I'm using all-purpose. You can use, you know, whatever flour you prefer. This is just what we have on hand. You know, organic flour is kind of expensive, so I haven't gotten any of that yet, but eventually we'll get there. Yeah, and instead of the butter, you can use, like, I've used avocado oil. That actually is really good. And then, or vegetable oil, whatever oil you have on hand. It's just, you need a little bit of fat. That's what the powdered milk does. It kind of helps it hold together. So yeah, I'm going to attach the dough hook and we'll get going. Before I attach the dough hook, actually, what I like to do is just put all the rest of the ingredients in. Got the salt here. Sorry, I don't have a tripod yet. I'm trying to get all this in here. And the powdered milk. And the butter. Let's see if it'll come out. Yeah, there we go. And what I like to do before I attach the dough hook is I actually like to use a whisk because I feel like it gets in there better. And you can certainly do this by hand. I did for many years. But my husband was kind and he bought me this awesome machine, and I love it. I use it for quite a bit of things. Yeah, so now I'm going to get the dough hook on there and then we'll start adding the flour. I start by adding just a little bit of the flour. I'd say about 1/4 of it. My flour is pretty thirsty, so I don't usually use as much as it calls for. About 20 grams less or so than what the recipe calls for. But I'll just dump like maybe 1/4 to 1/2 of it in there to start with. And then I get that kind of mixing. So it's going to get loud. I'll probably stop talking. I won't make you watch all of this. You kind of get the gist of it. But just put it on stir. Kind of wait for it to kind of incorporate a little bit. So I've scraped the sides with my little spatula here. And then I added almost all of it, the rest of it. So see, there's just a little bit left in there. And I'm going to start with the stir. Let it kind of mix in there. If you go too fast, too quick, you will have a hilarious mess on your hands to clean up later, because this flour goes everywhere. So yeah, just let it go and mix and mix. Kind of when it starts to kind of pull together, I'll bump it up to 2. And I don't go any higher than that with the bread. Doesn't really need it. And then what I do usually is I set the timer for about 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, and then and let it go and kind of scrape the sides here and there, and we'll be back. So as you can see, it's pretty sticky. So during that first initial 3 or 4 minutes, if it's sticky, what I'll do is slow it down, sprinkle in the flour, a little bit at a time, and then bump it back up. And just keep going until it forms a smooth, soft dough, not sticking to the sides or anything like that. Okay, you can see it kind of started. It's, you know, getting smooth. Oh, geez, sorry. It's getting smooth and it's pulled away from the edges. It's not very sticky. You know, I touch it. There's nothing on my fingers. So at this point, you let it rest for a couple minutes. If you're doing it by hand, you can wash out the bowl that you mixed everything in and then oil it or grease it. I'm going to do a separate one just because I like to just get this put away right away, cleaned up and out of the way, because we don't really have that much counter space, so it's best to put this thing back where it belongs after we're using it. So I'll be back and show you the next process. Okay, so after it rests, you're going to knead it again for another 3 to 4 minutes until it's totally smooth and everything looks good on there. So I'll be back when I'm done that. And then too, to show you, I've greased a large bowl with just some avocado oil. You can use whatever oil or butter you have on hand, just to keep the bread from sticking, really, so while it rises. Okay, so then when dough is kneaded and you form it into a bowl, or a ball, put it in the bowl, and then turn it over a couple times. Just make sure that the oil is evenly covered all over the dough, and then you put it in a warm place to rise. You can use tin foil, saran wrap, or whatever you want to cover. I use just a tea towel, slightly damp, just so it doesn't dry the bread out too much. Although as humid as it is today, I don't think we have to worry. So, and I'll be back when it's ready to move on to its next phase. Okay, so once the dough is doubled in size, you want to grease 2 bread pans. Mine are Pyrex. Metal will work just fine. I recommend butter. You can use other things, but butter, I'm telling you after experience that butter is the best release on your bread. And by that I mean once you take it out of the oven and you want to take it out of the pans to cool, you will have no sticking whatsoever if you use butter. Guaranteed. So what I'm going to do is punch the dough down, and then off camera I am going to roll it out into 2 loaves, and then I will show you what's next. Okay, once you roll it out, try and get them as even as possible. They don't have to be exactly perfect, but kind of shape them into little loaves so they'll expand into your vessel here. And then a kind of trick that I've learned, what you can also do is like a shower cap or something, but I use plastic bags you get at the store. I try not to have too many of them, but if you have them laying around, they're perfect. Just put a little bit of oil in them. Not a lot, just the tiniest drop, so that it, and then you kind of tent it. See how it's kind of standing up? So it protects the bread as it rises, but then you don't have to worry about it getting stuck to like a saran wrap or something like that. So just a little pro tip, not so pro tip. And then now you just let it double in size again. Alright, so as you can see, it's gotten pretty big. Try and get a better angle there. So, you know, they won't, like I said, if you get it even, they'll even, but if not, it's cool. So now we're gonna put them in the oven, which, I forgot to adjust my rack, so hold on. Alright, bread is in. I'm going to set the timer for about 25 to 30 minutes. I'll start with 25. And we'll check back. Alright, timer is done. And I'll take it out of the oven. It looks pretty good. Pull it out and test it. You want to get them to 195 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle. I can just tell by looking at it that it looks pretty good. You know, you can do the thumb test. But get these out of the pan so they can cool properly. Okay, they slid right out of there. So you'll want to let this cool on a rack for a good 20-30 minutes at least before slicing. It's better if you wait till it cools completely, but it's hard to resist a hot, fresh loaf of bread for sure. As you can see, came out clean. So, alright, and that's how you make bread. Enjoy.